There's something about the sound of tires crunching over fresh snow that always calms me. That soft crackle beneath the wheels as the car winds its way deeper into the mountains, it reminded me of simpler times, of winters when life felt light and easy, when all I had to worry about was making it home before dark or not spilling hot chocolate on the couch. It had been 3 years since I'd been back to Echo Ridge. The cabin was still ours, built by my dad, handed down like a quiet legacy. We used to spend every winter here, just the 4 of us, Mom, Dad, my sister Emma, and me. After Dad passed, we kind of stopped coming. The memories hurt too much, and life moved faster than we could keep up with. But this year, I needed to come back. I needed something. Emma was the one who asked. She always remembered the good things. The snow angels. The hikes. Dad teaching her how to skip rocks over the frozen lake. She missed those days in a way I hadn't let myself feel. When she called and said, "Jake, can we go to the cabin this weekend? Just us?" I didn't even hesitate. Now here we were, 2 hours outside Denver, halfway up a narrow mountain road, the sky turning lavender as the sun disappeared behind the peaks. Emma sat beside me, her head resting against the window, earbuds in, mouthing the lyrics to some song I couldn't hear. Her winter jacket was zipped to her chin, a red scarf peeking out. She looked peaceful. Still so young, but something about her had grown quieter since Dad died. Not sad, exactly, but heavier. "You all right?" I asked, glancing over. She pulled one earbud out. "Yeah. Just tired. School's been a lot lately." I nodded. "Tell me about it." "College is basically just stress with vending machines." She smiled. "Are we still going to the lake first thing tomorrow?" "You bet. Might even beat you there." "Doubt it," she said with a mock glare. "I've got snow boots now. Real ones." I chuckled, and for the first time in what felt like months, I felt lighter too. We arrived just as dusk settled into night. The cabin stood at the edge of a clearing, its wooden frame dusted with snow, just like I remembered. I parked the car and took a deep breath. The air was cold, crisp, and sharp, like it had never been touched by city fumes or broken hearts. Inside, it smelled like pine and memory. The same woven rug. The fireplace. The couch Dad used to fall asleep on while pretending to watch movies. Emma ran ahead, flipping on lights, opening windows, checking the pantry like she always did. "Still some cocoa mix," she called. "Expiration dates only, a year ago." "Perfect," I said, hauling in our bags. We made a fire, heated some chili we brought from home, and curled up under blankets. I watched the flames dance in the hearth, listened to the wind against the windows, and let the silence wrap around me. Emma beat me at cards 3 times in a row. "Jake, you've lost your touch," she teased. "I'm going easy on you," I lied. When we finally went to bed, I lay awake for a while, staring at the wooden ceiling beams. The wind howled now and then, but it felt comforting, not eerie. I thought of Dad. Of the times he used to carry Emma on his back through the snowdrifts. Of how his laugh would echo through the trees. I missed him more than I wanted to admit. I think part of me hoped coming back here would feel like a reunion. Instead, it just reminded me that time doesn't stop for grief. It only waits for you to catch up. The next morning, everything was white. A storm must have passed through the night because the trees wore fresh coats of snow, and the path to the lake looked like a blank canvas. "Let's go before it melts," Emma said, already pulling on her boots. "Melts?" I raised an eyebrow. "It's 20 degrees out." She smirked. "You never know." We packed water, granola bars, and the emergency radio just in case. The trail to the lake wasn't far, maybe half a mile through the forest, but the snow made it slower going. We laughed and tossed snow at each other, Emma trying to shove a handful down the back of my coat. I retaliated by throwing her over my shoulder for a few seconds, until she shrieked and begged to be put down. When we reached the lake, it took my breath away. It stretched out like glass, perfectly still, the ice reflecting the sky like a mirror. Pine trees lined the far shore, and beyond them, the mountains stood tall, watching us like old friends. Emma stepped onto the ice carefully. Still frozen solid. Just like we remembered, I said, walking beside her. She twirled around, arms out, laughing. I feel like I'm 10 again. I smiled, watching her spin. And then, for a single second, I saw it. The faintest fracture in the ice beneath her left foot. A thin, dark line, barely visible. My heart skipped. Emma, wait. But before I could move, I heard it. A low, deep crack. Followed by a second. Then a shatter like glass breaking under pressure. Jake! The ice gave way beneath her. One moment she was laughing, and the next, she was gone. Jake! Her scream cut through me like a blade, and then there was silence. No splash. No thrashing. Just the hollow crack of the lake swallowing her whole. Emma! I bolted forward, the world spinning around me. The ice at the edge of the hole was jagged, dark water sloshing where she'd fallen through. I dropped to my knees, hands trembling as I peered into the void. For a heart-stopping moment, I saw nothing. Then, a blur beneath the surface. Her coat. Her hand. A faint shimmer of movement. Hold on, I whispered, breath fogging in the cold air. Hold on, Emma. I reached in, but the water was deeper than my arm could go. I couldn't see her clearly anymore. The cold bit my skin like teeth. I lay flat, trying to spread my weight, but the edges of the hole cracked as I moved. My mind was screaming do something. My heart was screaming get her back. I didn't think. I didn't hesitate. I threw off my jacket, yanked off my boots, and slid into the water. The cold hit me like a wall. Every part of my body seized. It was like being punched all over and over again. My breath vanished. My chest locked. The lake stole my strength in seconds. But I pushed forward, teeth clenched, eyes wide, arms moving through the blackness. Where was she? I twisted, delved deeper, the cold wrapping tighter around me like ropes. My hands fumbled in the dark. Nothing, then, fabric. Her coat. I grabbed it, yanked. Her body floated toward me, limp. No. 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 Not like this. I kicked hard, my lungs screaming, dragging her toward the light above. We burst through the surface in a mess of thrashing limbs and sharp gasps. My first breath back was a miracle, half water, half air, but enough to survive. Emma wasn't moving. Come on, I gasped, pulling her to the edge of the ice. I clawed at the surface, trying to lift her up, but everything was slippery, the ice crumbling in my hands. I kicked, shoved her up with everything I had. She slid onto the ice, limp and pale. Now I had to get out. My arms ached. My muscles were failing. The cold was winning. Move, Jake, I told myself through chattering teeth. Move. I slammed my forearms onto the ice, kicked hard, and heaved myself forward. For a terrifying second, I thought I'd slide back in, but then my stomach hit solid ground. I scrambled the rest of the way out, coughing, wheezing. I crawled to Emma. She was still. Her lips were blue. Eyes shut. No sound. No. No, I whispered, pressing my hands to her cheeks. Don't you dare. I started chest compressions, counting like I'd learned in high school. 1, 2, 3, 4, her chest barely moved under my shaking hands. I tilted her head, gave 2 breaths, went back to compressions. My tears froze on my cheeks. Please, I sobbed. Please don't leave me. I had no idea how long I kept going. The wind howled through the trees. My body felt like stone. My mind refused to stop. Then, she coughed. A weak, wet sound. She coughed again, water spilling from her lips. Her eyes fluttered open. Jake. I collapsed beside her, crying and laughing all at once. You're okay. You're okay. She tried to sit up, trembling. What happened? You fell through. But I got you. You're okay now. I pulled her into my arms, holding her tight, shielding her as best I could. I got you, Em. I got you. But we weren't safe yet. We were soaked. Barely able to move. Hypothermia could kill just as fast as drowning. The cabin was a quarter-mile away. The air cut through our wet clothes like blades. I had to get her home. I need you to try and stand, I said gently, brushing her hair back. Just for a second. She nodded weakly. I helped her up, wrapping my arms around her. My jacket was back by the hole. So was hers. We had nothing but each other. Just walk with me, I whispered. Lean on me. We're going home. The path was a blur of pain and freezing wind. Every step burned. My toes went numb. Emma clung to me, barely conscious, her breathing shallow. I kept talking to her, telling her about the fire I'd light, the cocoa I'd make, how proud Dad would be. My own body was giving up. But I kept going. I had to. When we finally reached the cabin, I nearly kicked the door down. I carried Emma inside, teeth chattering so violently I couldn't speak. I stripped her wet clothes off gently, wrapped her in blankets, then did the same for myself. I got the fire going. Turned on every heater. Sat beside her and held her close. Little by little, color returned to her cheeks. Her shivering slowed. Mine did too. We were alive. The fire crackled softly in the hearth, its glow flickering across the walls of the cabin like a heartbeat. I sat on the floor, back against the couch, holding Emma in my arms. Her head rested on my chest, her damp hair soaking into my shirt, but I didn't care. We were alive. That was all that mattered. But the fear hadn't left me. Even with the fire warming the room and the soft light chasing the darkness from the corners, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Not from the cold anymore, but from the terror that still echoed in my bones. I kept seeing her fall. That awful sound of the ice breaking. Her scream. The water closing over her like a trap door. Emma stirred. Jake. I'm here, I whispered, brushing her hair back. You're okay. Her voice was raspy. Did we really fall in? I nodded. Yeah. You went through first. I pulled you out. She was quiet for a moment. I thought I was gone. My throat tightened. You almost were. I remember the cold. Then nothing. I didn't know what to say. There was no way to explain the feeling of watching her vanish, of jumping in and not knowing if I'd come back with her. I'd never been more afraid in my life. And now that we were safe, the fear had shifted into something deeper, guilt. Why hadn't I seen the crack sooner? Why didn't I stop her? I wrapped the blanket tighter around both of us. You scared me, I admitted. More than anything ever has. Her fingers curled into the fabric near my heart. I'm sorry. You have nothing to be sorry for. We sat there for a long time, just listening to the fire and each other's breathing. Eventually, she drifted off. I eased her onto the couch, piling blankets around her, then stood and paced slowly through the cabin. My clothes were dry now, but my body still ached. My limbs were heavy. My mind even heavier. I checked her every few minutes, watching the rise and fall of her chest. What if I hadn't reached her in time? What if the ice had cracked under both of us? What if? No. Stop. She was here. Breathing. Warm. And that meant I'd done something right. By morning, the storm had passed. The world outside the window was still and quiet. Snow clung to the trees like a secret. The lake, where it had happened, sat far in the distance, invisible through the forest, but I could feel it. It felt like it was still watching me. Emma woke slowly, eyes fluttering open. Morning, I said softly. She smiled weakly. Still alive? Very much so. She tried to sit up. Everything hurts. I'd be worried if it didn't. I helped her upright and brought her some warm oatmeal and tea. She ate slowly, quietly. After a while, she looked at me and asked, "Did you think I was going to die?" The question hit me harder than I expected. I didn't answer right away. Yeah, I said finally. I did. She nodded slowly, looking down at her tea. But you didn't, I added. You fought your way back. You're stronger than you know, Emma. Her eyes filled with tears, and she reached for my hand. I held hers tightly. Thank you, she whispered. For not giving up on me. I never could. That afternoon, we stayed inside. Played cards again. Talked about Dad. She asked about the breakup I hadn't wanted to talk about back home. I told her the truth, that it hurt, but not as much as losing someone for real. I think almost losing you made everything else feel small. She nodded. I get that. There was a new kind of closeness between us now. Not just siblings, but survivors. We'd crossed a line most people never face. The ice, the fear, the silence beneath the surface, it had changed something in both of us. And yet, it also reminded us what mattered. That night, we sat by the fire again, side by side, wrapped in the same blanket. The cabin felt warmer somehow. Safer. Like the storm had passed not just outside, but inside us too. We didn't need to talk much. Just being there, together, was enough. But even in the peace, I made myself a quiet promise. I would never take her safety, or our time, lightly again. 2 days passed in quiet recovery. The storm had swept through the mountains quickly, but its aftermath left us snowed in. We kept the fireplace burning, rationed our food, and stayed wrapped in every blanket we could find. Emma's strength returned slowly. Her cheeks were pink again, her eyes brighter. But we still hadn't told anyone what happened. Our phones had no signal. The emergency radio picked up static. The only road down the mountain was likely buried. I figured once the storm cleared, I'd shovel out the car and drive us back to Denver. That morning, I stepped outside with a snow shovel in hand. The air was sharp and silent. Blue sky stretched overhead, clear for the first time in days. The car was buried up to the windows. I started digging. After 20 minutes, I paused to catch my breath, and that's when I saw them. Tracks. Fresh ones. Boot prints, just a few feet from where I stood. They led from the trees near the lake, all the way to the cabin's back door. I frowned. We hadn't gone out there. Neither had Emma. I'd checked the doors every night. No one had knocked. No one had called out. A cold weight settled in my stomach. I followed the tracks backward, toward the edge of the woods. They weren't deep, whoever made them had come after the snowstorm, maybe during the night. They weaved between trees, disappearing where the shadows grew thick. I stood there for a long moment, listening. Nothing but the wind. Still, I couldn't shake it, the feeling of being watched. Like someone knew we were here. I turned back, following the prints to the cabin. They stopped just at the back door. Not on the porch. Not at the steps. Right at the door. Someone had come to the cabin. And hadn't knocked. Inside, Emma looked up as I came in. You okay? I nodded, but my voice was tight. You didn't go outside last night, did you? She shook her head. No. Why? There were tracks. Human tracks. They lead right to the door. Her face paled. Jake? I'm not sure who it was. Could have been a hiker. A ranger, maybe. But why wouldn't they knock? I didn't have an answer. The rest of the day, I couldn't stop checking the windows. Every crack of wind made me flinch. I tried to play it cool for Emma, but the thought kept echoing in my mind, someone was out there. Watching us. and left without a trace. That night, I set up the old hunting lanterns outside. Dad had taught me how to use them as a signal. Light means someone's home, someone's awake. I wanted whoever might be watching to know I saw them too. Before bed, I checked all the doors. Locked every window. Made sure the fire was strong. Emma sat beside me on the couch. You think they'll come back? I don't know. Are we safe? I looked at her, then nodded. We are. I promise. But when I lay awake in the dark, staring at the ceiling, I knew better than to believe in promises. The forest was full of secrets. And sometimes, the cold isn't the only thing that creeps in. Sometime past midnight, I heard it. A soft knock. 3 slow taps on the back door. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. I waited. Nothing. I sat up, heart pounding. Another knock. Louder this time. Still slow. Emma stirred in her bed across the room. Jake? Stay there, I whispered. I crept toward the back door, every step loud against the wooden floor. I looked through the peephole. Nothing. No one. I flipped on the back light. The snow was untouched. No new footprints. Just the old ones, half filled in by the wind. I opened the door cautiously, bat in hand. Cold air rushed in. Nothing. The trees stood still. The world was quiet. And then, just as I started to shut the door, I saw it. A single red scarf. Tied to the branch of a tree. Emma's scarf. The one she'd worn the day she fell in. I had taken it off her when we got back inside. I remembered doing it. I had hung it by the fireplace to dry. I turned slowly. It was gone from the hook. I stared at the scarf fluttering in the wind like a signal. Someone had been inside. The scarf hung like a whisper from the branch, swaying in the wind. It was hers. Emma's. No doubt about it. The red wool, the little fray at the end she always played with when she was nervous, it was unmistakable. I stood frozen in the doorway, the cold clawing at my skin, staring at the tree line. Who put it there? How did they get inside? I closed the door slowly, locking it twice. My heartbeat was a steady hammer in my ears. Emma was sitting up on the couch, eyes wide and frightened. Who was it? She asked. No one. I hesitated. But your scarf, it's gone from the hook. Her face went pale. I didn't move it. I know. She wrapped the blanket tighter around her shoulders. Jake, are we being watched? I don't know, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. But I think someone's been inside while we were sleeping. I checked every room, every closet, even under the floorboards where Dad used to store gear. Everything looked untouched. No broken windows. No footprints inside. It didn't make sense. And that's what made it worse. The next morning, we made a plan. We packed our things. Just essentials, food, water, warm clothes. If the car wouldn't start, we'd hike. I couldn't risk another night in the cabin. Not with whoever, or whatever, was out there. Emma stayed close as I shoveled around the car. I worked fast, the air biting at my hands, my eyes scanning the trees. Nothing moved. No sound but the shovel scraping ice. Until I saw it. A shape, barely visible, between 2 trees. I stopped. Someone stood at the edge of the woods. Tall. Still. Watching. I blinked. The shape was gone. Did you see that? I asked, turning to Emma. See what? Someone was there. She looked where I pointed, but there was nothing. We loaded the car in silence. When I turned the key, the engine sputtered. Once. Twice. Nothing. I popped the hood, checked the battery, it was gone. Just gone. Cleanly disconnected and taken. Someone doesn't want us to leave, I muttered. Emma's voice was small. What do we do? I met her eyes. We hike. We follow the road. If we leave now, we can reach the ranger station by sunset. It was 10 miles. Uphill in some spots. But I didn't tell her that. We dressed in layers, filled our thermos, and left a note in case someone came by. Then we started walking. The snow was knee-deep in places. The sky was overcast again. Everything looked different, like the forest had changed while we weren't looking. Emma was quiet as we walked. She clutched a walking stick and kept glancing behind us. After a while, she said, "Do you think it's him?" "Who?" "The man from the story Dad used to tell. The one who lived in the forest." "That was just a story." She nodded, but I could see the doubt in her eyes. We walked for hours. The road twisted and dipped through thick trees, the snow growing deeper with every mile. My legs ached. My fingers stung. But we kept going. Until we saw the sign. Echo Ridge Ranger Station, 1.2 miles. Relief flooded me. I turned to tell Emma, and froze. More tracks. Fresh. Human. Leading off the path. I followed them with my eyes. They led into the forest, toward a narrow trail I didn't recognize. A scrap of red cloth hung from a low branch nearby. Emma saw it too. "That's mine," she whispered. "Another piece of my scarf." "I know." We stood there, surrounded by silence. The wind had stopped. The world held its breath. Then we heard it. Footsteps. Behind us. We spun around, but saw no one. "Run," I said. We sprinted the last mile, lungs burning, hearts pounding. Every shadow looked like it might move. Every tree looked like it might blink. When we reached the station, I nearly cried. The small wooden building sat quiet but intact. I banged on the door. No answer. I pushed it open. Empty. The lights were off. The generator wasn't running. But the fireplace had fresh ashes. Someone had been here. "Jake," Emma said. I turned. She held something in her hand. A Polaroid photo. Of her. Taken from behind, standing at the frozen lake. The photo was marked with 2 words, scrawled in shaky handwriting. "I saw you." Emma's hand trembled as she held the Polaroid. The photo looked fresh, the colors crisp, like it had been taken just hours ago. Her figure was clear in the frame, standing at the edge of the frozen lake, her red scarf wrapped tight around her neck. She turned it over. A date was scribbled on the back. Yesterday. I snatched the photo gently, examining the handwriting. Sharp, uneven. The kind of writing that made your skin crawl, not just for what it said, but how it said it. "I saw you." I looked around the empty ranger station. Dust on the floor, but no footprints. The fireplace had ashes still warm to the touch. Someone had been here recently. Maybe even when we first knocked. "I don't like this, Jake," Emma whispered. "I don't either," I admitted. We searched the station. One radio, dead. No signal. The backup generator? Torn apart, wires missing. Whoever had been here didn't just use the place. They'd ruined it. Like they didn't want help getting out. Like they didn't want us to get out either. We locked the door behind us. I dragged a heavy chair in front of it, then piled wood into the fireplace and got a flame going. It wasn't much, but the warmth gave us a small island of comfort in an ocean of fear. Emma sat close, knees to her chest, staring into the flames. "Do you think it's someone who lives out here?" she asked. "I don't know," I said. "Maybe a squatter. Maybe someone who snapped." Her eyes flicked to the photo again. What if they were watching the whole time? Since the ice. I looked at her. "You think they saw you fall in?" She didn't answer at first. Then she whispered, "I felt something under there. When I was in the water. Like I wasn't alone." Goosebumps prickled my arms. "Emma, Why didn't you say anything before? I thought I imagined it. I was scared and freezing and confused. But now. She didn't need to finish the sentence. Now, everything felt real. We didn't sleep that night. We took turns keeping watch. I sat by the window, eyes on the dark forest, ears straining for sound. Emma stayed near the fire, hugging herself, murmuring softly like she was trying to convince herself this was all still a bad dream. Around 3 in the morning, I saw the first light. A flicker. Distant. Between the trees. I nudged Emma. Look. She squinted. Is that a fire? We stood slowly, hearts pounding. Out past the edge of the woods, a glow pulsed like a heartbeat. Someone had lit a campfire. Not far from the station. And next to it. A figure. Motionless. Tall. Standing just beyond the reach of the firelight. I raised the binoculars from the supply shelf and looked closer. The figure wore a long coat. Hooded. I couldn't make out a face. They didn't move. They didn't sit. They just stood. Watching. I lowered the binoculars, skin crawling. It's them. Emma stepped back. We need to leave. We can't. Not in the dark. So what do we do? We wait until morning, I said. Then we move. Fast. Follow the road until we hit town. She nodded, her lips pressed tight. The fire outside burned until dawn. When the sky began to pale, we packed quickly. We left the ranger station without looking back. As we passed the spot where the fire had burned, there was nothing left. No embers. No ashes. No footprints. Just a small wooden figure, carved crudely, left in the snow. It was shaped like a girl. Wearing a red scarf. Emma gasped and stumbled back. I picked it up carefully. On the base, etched with a knife, were 3 chilling words. You still here? They don't know how to spell, Emma whispered, her voice tight. They weren't trying to spell, I said, my blood turning cold. They were trying to say something else. We are still here. We ran. The sun barely crested the horizon as Emma and I hurried down the narrow mountain road, snow crunching beneath our boots. Every tree felt like it had eyes. Every gust of wind sounded like a whisper we couldn't quite understand. That wooden figure, small, carved, silent, burned a hole in my coat pocket. You still here? I couldn't shake the words. Not just because they were wrong, but because they felt deliberate. A message. A plea. Or maybe, a warning. Emma clung close beside me, her scarf, what was left of it, wrapped tightly around her neck. Her cheeks were pale, but she didn't complain, didn't stumble. She was stronger than I'd ever seen her. We're close, I said, pointing to the road sign ahead. Maple Junction, 2 miles. 2 miles. We could make that. The town would have phones. People. Help. But just as hope began to rise in my chest, we saw it. Another figure. Standing in the center of the road. Same coat. Same hood. Still as stone. Emma stopped dead. Jake. I see him, I said, stepping in front of her. We took a slow step back. The figure raised one arm. Not in greeting. In warning. Don't come closer. Then it turned and walked off the road, into the forest. Leaving behind something. A satchel. I approached it slowly, pulse hammering in my throat. Inside, a bundle of photographs, weathered and damp. Old Polaroids. All of Emma. All taken from afar. All from this week. The last one made my breath stop. Emma standing at the lake's edge. And behind her, barely visible in the corner, was a man. Tall. Shadowed. Watching her. But it wasn't recent. The photo was dated last winter. Emma, I said quietly. You've been watched before. She stared at the photo, her lips parted, then shook her head. No, that's not possible. Last winter we didn't come here. She was right. But I did. I came here alone, trying to clear my head after Dad's death. I'd sat by the lake, journaled, walked the trails. I never told anyone. Except Emma. I remembered the call now. Telling her about the lake, the silence, how I felt Dad's presence in the trees. And suddenly, it all made sense. It wasn't Emma they had followed. It was me. I looked at the figure in the photo again. The same one who pulled her scarf off the hook. The one who knocked at our door. The one who watched from the firelight. I had led them here. They're not trying to hurt us, I said slowly. They're trying to be seen. Emma frowned. What do you mean? I pulled out the wooden figure again. And finally noticed it, something I hadn't seen before. Etched faintly on the back. Help me. That's when I remembered something Dad used to say. Some people get lost in the mountains. Not just in distance, but in spirit. I turned back to the woods. Stay here, I told Emma. What? No, Jake. I need to see who this is. I need to end this. She grabbed my arm. Please don't go alone. I looked into her eyes. I have to. But I'll be back. I promise. I followed the trail into the forest. It didn't take long. The figure waited in a clearing, hands at their sides, head tilted. I stopped a few feet away. Who are you? No answer. I reached into my pocket and held out the wooden carving. You made this. Still silent. You've been watching us. Leaving signs. Why? Slowly, the hood lowered. And I gasped. He was barely older than me. Early 20s. His face pale, eyes hollow, but not wild. Lost. I died here, he whispered. A year ago. Fell through the ice. I took a step back. No one came. I screamed. But no one heard. His voice cracked. I was alone, until I saw her. On the lake. She reminded me of my sister. I thought. He looked down. I thought maybe I could help. Maybe if someone saw me, they could remember me. Bring me back. Tears filled my eyes. I'm sorry, I said softly. I didn't know. He shook his head. You saved her. You did what no one did for me. I reached out slowly. You're not forgotten. You were seen. He smiled faintly. And just like that, he was gone. No flash. No sound. Just the falling snow. I walked back to Emma, heart heavy and light all at once. When she saw me, she ran and threw her arms around me. You're okay? He's gone, I said. And he's at peace now. She nodded, wiping her eyes. We reached Maple Junction an hour later. We called Mom. Got warm food. Told the sheriff everything. They found the satchel, the photographs. But not a single footprint in the woods. Not a single trace of the figure who followed us. Back in Denver, weeks later, Emma framed the carving. She put it by the fireplace, with a tiny plaque underneath. Seen. Heard. Remembered. Sometimes, late at night, I still think about him, the boy beneath the ice. And how love, even from a stranger, can bring someone back to the surface.